I feel like
Well, I'm not in Miami to feel your spleen, but that's the key to mononucleosis, is what's happening with your spleen.
I can be your doctor on the scene here. If you want to just explain to me how to find his spleen, I'll start rubbing it.
And first off, Doc, realize that you're dealing with spleen, left side or right side?
All right, what am I doing here?
So, your belly button, right? You know where that is?
Yeah.
All right, go from Miami up to Fort Lauderdale from your belly button.
Okay.
This is weird.
And make a right turn. That's your liver.
I don't feel anything.
You went up to that bottom of the rib cage and you made a left, that's your spleen.
Okay.
If the spleen is sore or enlarged, you got mono.
Yeah, on the left side, Billy. On your left side, yes.
Right. You said right.
No, right is liver, left is spleen.
Okay, hold on.
Why did he throw the liver?
He wanted to make sure he's explaining where your organs are.
Right. He should have told us to take a left.
Okay.
I got to make a
fine.
U-turn.
Live from ESPN Studios in South Beach. It's the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz.
Stugotz is judging coffers. We will get to that in a second.
They're judging me.
And put it on the poll, Guillermo, at Le Batard Show. Are you judging coffers, and are they judging you right now? As things happen in Italy, and we're a little behind Italy on the timeline, but the numbers on these things jump very quickly as it relates to the coronavirus. And as there are more conversations, because it is total chaos right now, beyond the business community and what you see happening in the stock market, there are just daily practicalities that make, for example, the running of ESPN difficult because you don't know where and how to send people to a group of, to an event that needs to be covered.
Right.
Where there are crowds and you don't know what's going to be canceled and what's not going to be canceled because we don't have a handbook for this stuff. And America, so far, when it comes to sports, has been protecting the money. There hasn't been any overreaction in sports, even as many people claim that we're overreacting everywhere else, that this is the flu, that the flu kills more people, that this is only a thing that affects older people with respiratory problems. But a lot of alarmists and a lot of fear-mongering has the idea that our hospitals and our healthcare system is going to get overrun soon. And sports doesn't know how to deal with this. There's a lot of money out there. You are being reminded every day, these are giant businesses. And so far, sports hasn't done anything proactive, not too much proactive until this week. And so what happened with LeBron here was interesting because, for better or worse, LeBron is learning how to be a voice with power. But sometimes he says things, and we saw this with China. I think it's his worst public moment so far for a guy who has had largely, since being a child star, nothing but positive moments, even losses he's rebounded from. Like, this guy has had very few bad public moments as a guy who has been famous in front of your eyes and has literally grown up right before your eyes for 20 years. For 20 years. And now he's being handed some stuff that he's not very good at dealing with. Like
Nobody is, though, Dan. I mean, this is uncharted territory for everybody.
Well, everybody was better at China than he was. Everybody was better at that than he was. He has FU money and FU power, and he protected it instead of fighting with it.
Mm-hmm.
And he protected his sneaker interests, and he protected his business relationships. And what you just saw happen yesterday was that LeBron is actually, Adam Silver needs to be thankful for LeBron in a number of different ways. One of them being that he actually listens, that you can see when corporate has gotten to LeBron and his position moves, and it moves quickly, and he's got a team of handlers around him and really smart people, and they tell him, get out there and fix that thing you said. So we were laughing at what he originally said about the coronavirus, which runs counter to everything the NBA is doing and is something that, while very nice to say, and something that serves LeBron very well, has now been unmasked in a way that Mike enjoyed sending me the text with no comment whatsoever of just LeBron about facing on this, where you go from this comment.
We play games without the fans? Yeah. No, it's impossible. I ain't playing. I ain't got the fans in the crowd. That's what I play for. I play for my teammates, I play for the fans. That's what it's all about. So if I show up to an arena and ain't no fans in there, I ain't playing. So they can do what they want to do.
Thanks, everyone.
Appreciate it. I ain't never played a game without no fans. Ever, since I started playing ball.
They've had to do it in Europe or soccer sometimes.
No, I don't give a damn. This ain't Europe.
Or like riots and stuff sometimes.
Man, I don't give a damn. They can do what they want to do. Go ahead. You won't have me out there. I'll be at home.
So that's not unclear. It's flippant, it's cursing, it's I'm not playing with no fans there. That sounds vastly different to what happened when the corporate polishers got involved and said, hey, LeBron, you need to change your tune on this.
When I was asked the question of would you play without no fans, I had no idea that it was actually a conversation going on behind closed doors about the particular virus. Obviously, I would be very disappointed, not having the fans, because that's what I play for. I play for my family, I play for my fans. They're saying no one could actually come to the game if they decide to go to that point. So I'd be disappointed in that. But at the same time, you gotta listen to the people that's keeping a track on what's going on, and if they feel like it's best for the safety of the players, the safety of the franchise, safety of the league, to mandate that, then we all listen to it.
That was better.
That's him being a good teammate, which I believe him to be, a good corporate partner, which I believe him to be, a person who gets new information and doesn't mind the embarrassment of going from a stance that was, I don't give a damn, to, I give a damn. And you just all saw me undressed in a way that shows you that I give a damn. But that's him listening to the people around him, somebody he trusts, whether it's Mav Carter or Adam Silver. Somebody said those can't be the words coming out of the mouth of the face of the league, because we are now entertaining the possibility of playing games without fans.
I really appreciate the take, because most are seizing this opportunity to laugh at LeBron for going totally against what he recently said. But I think everybody, and we don't have microphones.
Everyone's got bosses, man.
Well, it's not just bosses. I think people's position on this changes day to day as you find more about it. I remember looking at some sports leagues playing abroad in front of empty stadiums a week and a half ago. I'm like, well, that seems excessive. Not us, right? And here we are, and they're talking about it. It might happen today. Right. You never know. So I think everyone's position on this, in light of new information, is allowed to change.
That should be to anything. You should always be receptive to new information instead of allowing your ego and your stubbornness to inform your every decision, your prides and your vanities to fight people like you should. Man, this happens all the time in sports. The arguments go sideways because others aren't willing to accept new information. They just want to entrench on whatever their beliefs are.
So you want this to be sort of a lesson moving forward of how to act moving forward? Because, Dan, it's kind of like washing your hands. It's kind of like, we're not going to continue to do this once the coronavirus is gone, right? And so LeBron James, I'm with Mike. It's like an hour-to-hour thing, and the news changes. And I don't think LeBron needed anyone to tell him. I think LeBron just realized on his own, hey, this is more serious than it was 2 days ago.
You're being naive.
Really?
People are going to keep washing their hands.
You're being naive if you don't
I don't know, Bill.
You're being naive.
I don't know. I'm telling you, I'm washing my hands right now. Like, skin is falling off of my hands. That's how much I am washing my hands. 25 seconds, warm water. I'm doing it like 17 times a day. And I am telling you, 2 months from now, I will not be washing my hands this often, this frequently. I'm telling you.
You have not left the show once to wash your hands in like 2 weeks.
Well, I mean, it's clean in here, and so I'm fine. I mean, we're at the Cleveland.
Fred Cody was in here yesterday coughing and wheezing. An old person with respiratory problems.
I mean, I guess the benefit of all of this is it's introduced the idea of Stugotz actually washing his hands now.
Well, no, washing. You could have ended that sentence a few words early. Stugotz has already told us that the bottom half of his legs, the water and the soap will get to it.
That's for the most part true. I believe that.
Gravity, Dan. It's all moving downhill. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance, with insurance for cars, homes, boats, motorcycles, RVs, and commercial vehicles at 1-800-PROGRESSIVE and Progressive.com. College basketball is in the home stretch. It's pretty much over, or maybe it's beginning. Tune in today for the ACC Tournament quarterfinals. Coverage begins at 6:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Here's your SportsCenter update. Washington Governor Jay Inslee will announce a ban on gatherings and events of more than 250 people in virtually the entire Seattle metro area. He is doing this to try to stop the spread of the coronavirus. The ban will include sporting events and concerts. Rob Gronkowski is closing in on a deal with the WWE. Wow, that's exciting. Vivid Seats, the top ticket source for all the live events you crave, now is a loyalty program that allows fans to earn credit back. It's simple. Go to the App Store or Google Play, download the Vivid Seats app, enter promo code ESPN25 for 10% off your next order. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in to SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
More than Stu from the Clevelander on ESPN Radio.
Download the Vivid Seats app and enter promo code ESPN25 at checkout to get 10% off your next order. Don't buy just any seat. Get a Vivid seat. TheBlackTux.com is the easiest way to look fresh for your wedding or special event. To get 10% off your suit or tuxedo, simple. Just visit TheBlackTux.com. Once you're there, enter code Dan.
Couple of funny things just happened. One, you may know and be familiar with the work of Roy. He is a professional stoic. He does not say much. He does not show very much in the way of outward enthusiasm unless there is an open bar. However, there is one thing that acts like a siren in his life that makes his head pop up and a giant smile appear on his face. And it's whenever Stugotz has a speed bump of phlegm in the middle of something that he's reading.
Yeah. Brings great joy to my life, Dan.
I know. I've noticed it. It is something that seems to bring you a great deal of happiness. There was a mere hiccup there. It's not as bad as some of the greats. Stugotz is dirty. Billy just had a conversation with him saying you look particularly unwashed today, and he did this while. That's the other funny thing that happened.
Just took a shower. I mean, what are you talking about?
This is as Stugotz is accusing Anthony about having the coronavirus. He's accusing Tony, saying you have the coronavirus because he's lashing out in all directions. He's also a hypochondriac, so this is a really bad time for him. I just overheard him say, no joke, that he has the list of symptoms in his pocket because he can't retain anything.
No, he meant that he has all the symptoms in his actual pocket.
Yes. Well, that too. But I have the list of symptoms right here. I wrote them down. They're always in my pocket.
There's like 3 things.
Well, it's dry cough, it's fever, and it's SOB, shortness of breath. And so if I experience any of those things, I check the list to make sure.
Why can't you remember 3 things?
That's tough, man. It's tough. I got a lot going on in my life, a lot to remember. I mean, that's, I got the Laker game last night. I got sports. I got my family. I got a lot of things to retain.
In that order.
And this brain can only retain so much. All right.
He was making fun of LeBron, saying he missed a layup at the buzzer. So should we just go ahead and say Giannis is the MVP favorite again, since we're doing this game to game anyway, and they lost at home to the Nets?
He should have wished there were no fans at last night's game.
They lose.
They missed a bunny to tie it up against the Nets.
That is what happened. Why did you accuse Tony of having the coronavirus?
Well, because there's a test out there, according to Billy. And I don't know where Billy is getting it
Billy
from.
doesn't seem to want any part of your tethering him to this thing. What
was it?
Billy?
The real Deborah Messing on Twitter with a blue check mark?
I'd just like to say that right before I said this, I said we probably shouldn't do this on air. But my wife sent me a screenshot of what's supposedly a 1-minute at-home kind of test you can give yourself to feel.
Is this the one from the Stanford Hospital Board internal message?
No, this is from the real Deborah Messing.
There's so much information out there.
Jeez.
Stanford.
So Deborah Messing, I guess, gave us advice on how we can figure out if maybe we have symptoms or whatever. So I was telling Stugotz to do these things so you can figure out if you have it or not. And, yeah, he doesn't have it, I guess. But he's accusing Anthony of having it.
Well, one of the things was you take a big, deep breath and you hold your breath for 10 seconds. Yeah. And if you can do that without coughing or feeling...
Without stiffness, without discomfort, without tightness.
Right. And Tony started coughing after like 4 seconds.
So he has it.
Well, it also says, like, just if you have it in your mouth, drink water, and then it'll put it into your stomach, and your stomach acid will just kill the virus, which seems like really simple. So I don't know that the real Deborah Messing has all of the information.
Well, but this is where we are on this. They are saying that if your mouth feels dry or whatever, you should keep it feeling moist, and you should be drinking water every 15 minutes, at least a few sips, for the reason that Billy just articulated. You don't want to have fibrosis in the lungs.
So maybe Deborah Messing does have it right.
Maybe Tony has it.
Right.
So should we send him home or?
I don't know.
Well, let's figure something out here because I was sneezing all weekend and I was relieved to find out it's not a symptom.
Me too. I had the chills and I looked it up and I saw that the chills wasn't one of the symptoms. But then I also saw that like the coronavirus goes back to like the 80s. So then I saw that the chills wasn't like a symptom, I guess, of this coronavirus. And I was like, great. I want the chills for a long time because then I know I'm good.
Chill's not on the list. You're right.
Hey, Dan, as you remember, I went to Thailand on my honeymoon at the outbreak of this coronavirus. So I was really on the front lines of the coronavirus fight. Yeah. And we came back with no coronavirus. So it would be very tragic to get it here instead of get it over there when we were actually
I don't know how long you've had it, though. Maybe you brought it and the symptoms didn't reveal themselves yet.
Maybe I was patient zero.
Are you having trouble breathing? Are you having, if you hold your breath for 10 seconds, let's all do it right now on the air. We're going to.
No, someone has to.
Somebody has to talk.
All right.
We could play music underneath.
No, or I could just give a PSA about how we're not being flippant about any of this.
Yeah, no,
okay, you can go ahead. All right, you go ahead.
This is why I said don't do this.
All right, well, Mike, you go ahead and give us 10 seconds of corporate butt covering while the rest of us try to hold our breath for 10 seconds here and see if we can all do it without coughing. Are you ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
We here at the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz on ESPN Radio are generally lighthearted show. We know that we often try to find the connection points in all of this as we as a human race are trying to figure this out.
Tony, you've got it.
Oh, my God.
You've got it, Tony. It's
oh, my God.
You're a second and a half in. We are not being flippant about this. We're scared. Stugotz is a hypochondriac.
Yes.
Like Stugotz doesn't do quite enough to inform himself, but when Stugotz has gone to the great lengths, the great measures of writing 3 things down and putting it in a dirty piece of paper that's in his pocket, this is Stugotz at the height of pandemic.
What was that paper? Is that a receipt? Like, what is that?
It's a piece of paper from here. One of the commercials here. I just ripped a little piece of paper off yesterday and put it in my pocket.
We're in uncharted territory. We've had scares like this, Zika, SARS, and it's never gotten to the point where
HIV,
so many things are being canceled, and a lot of it's just like fear over the unknown. It's already affected sports. The tennis's 5th major has been sort of canceled, and it seems as though this is actually speaking to Adam Silver as a commissioner. It feels like everybody is waiting for the NBA to make a decision here. They're leading this charge.
They are the leaders in sports. The NFL has proven to be followers at every single turn. The NFL does not do the one place where the NFL decided to lead was the place where you saw the biggest fight show up and the credibility of the commissioner get swallowed by it. They decided to be leaders on discipline, and they gave it all back in this collective bargaining agreement. They're like, never mind about that.
We'll follow.
We'll stop. We'll stop punishing everybody for the off-field stuff, and everything will go to arbitration because they botched all of that. The thing that happens here, though, because the NBA is the progressive leadership group, this is a really hard thing to lead, man. Like, there are so many unknowns here and so many decisions that have to be made that get near the money. And where the hell's the handbook for this? Like, you can watch what other countries are doing, but Italy isn't allowing people to go to weddings and funerals. Italy is shut down, and they handled this pretty aggressively when they realized that it was encroaching.
And outside of our own country, it's getting more and more west. The Premier League, Manchester City and Arsenal were supposed to have a match today. That's been postponed because Arsenal played a match in Greece, and the owner of that club has corona.
I'm not doing this flippantly, though. I am legitimately nervous. Like, I went to Walgreens yesterday, and I cleared that place out.
You found stuff?
I found some hand sanitizer. I found some soap.
You did?
Whoa.
Yeah, I found.
No one can find hand sanitizer.
I found the 12-hour Afrin spray. I found Mucinex. I mean, I found.
Does anyone believe him?
Honestly, I started getting suspicious by him saying I went to Walgreens.
Exactly.
This show ain't free. Time for some ads.
Got some goobers as well.
I believe that.
3 for $3.
This is where the details on the lie get filled in.
Now they have the 3 boxes of candy for $3. It's either Walgreens or CVS, but it is a staple of one of those pharmacies. 3 boxes of candy for $3. I get 3 boxes of goobers.
Guillermo, put on the poll at LeBrons Show. Do you know the difference between a CVS and a Walgreens when you're in it? Casper, because I just refer to them all as Walgreens.
One of them has shorter shelves, I think.
Man, the sick business is doing well. There are a lot of pharmacies around here. Everyone, the opiates business, the pharmacy business, they keep sprouting like Subway franchises around here. Casper, midway through the week, it feels like a weekend every time I lay down on my Casper mattress. It is comfortable. We all have them. Tell them, Stugotz.
Yep, we've all heard of Casper. You know, the sleep company with outrageously comfortable products at not so outrageous prices. And with their current end-of-season clearance, you can save up to 20% on the mattress of your dreams. Save up to 20% on mattresses now through March 23rd, 2020. Offer expires March 23rd, 2020 at 11:59 p.m. Pacific. Save 10% off the Essential, 20% off the Casper and the Wave. Limit 1 offer per customer and order. Additional shipping fees apply for Hawaii and Alaska. Please see casper.com/terms for additional terms and conditions.
We achieve greatness by accident.
There's soap made just for the face and other soap made especially for the hands. Please. Greg Cody uses the same soap on his face that he uses to wash his. What do you think of that?
Guillermo, put it on the poll because I think he has helped us with a fascinating question. Do you use the same soap you use on your face on your whack? Go ahead, yes or no, because my answer is no. My answer is no.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. The Dan Le Batard Show is brought to you by Shell V-Power Nitro Plus Premium Gasoline. All guests on the Dan Le Batard Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Here's your SportsCenter update. Washington Governor Jay Inslee will announce a ban on gatherings at events of more than 250 people in virtually the entire Seattle metro area to try to stop the spread of the coronavirus. The ban will include sporting events and concerts. Rob Gronkowski is close to finalizing a deal with WWE. And finally, Apple is reportedly testing a new feature that would let iPhone owners unsend text messages after they've been delivered. That was messages. So you can unsend them after you send them? But the person's already seen them.
Maybe they haven't.
SportsCenter brought to you by Advance Auto Parts. Think ahead, think advance. At any time, 1 in 4 batteries is about to fail. Get a free battery test and free installation with any automotive battery purchase only at Advance Auto Parts. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in to SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
Put it on the poll, please, Guillermo. Would you like the ability to unsend text messages? We have a couple of food-related issues here that have broken out, and it's uncomfortable around here, okay? When everything happening around food, there are a number of things here. Roy is always the first one to arrive whenever there is food. He gets there very aggressively. Stugotz is feuding with an assortment of delivery establishments because they don't bring his food quickly enough. Billy continues to forget at every turn that he has placed food somewhere. This is a bit of a contaminant. You can tell Billy about them. You can tell the people about that in a second. And Mike's got questions about microwave etiquette, group microwave etiquette. So let's start with Billy here. What happened with your avocado toast?
So I forget it's regular toast. I'm not bougie, Dan.
Avocado toast.
Oh, I thought it was avocado toast.
No.
I was ready to hit him with that.
White guys, white.
So I'll make myself toast in the morning, but I'm kind of like in a rush, and I will make the toast. I'll put the butter on it, then I kind of wrap it in a paper towel, and I do like you guys remember that thing around Christmas time where it's like don't waste wrapping paper if you wrap it this way, and they show you like a strange way to wrap it. I realized that works with toast. It doesn't work with my presents. That did not work at all. I was wasting a ton of wrapping paper because I thought I'll just cut a small tiny square and this will fit this giant TV. Not the case. So anyways. I then wrap up my toast, and then I put it in my backpack, right, because I have to watch for the show. And then 11:30 or so comes around, and I realize, hey, I made toast 5 hours ago, and it's just been sitting in my backpack.
Do you eat it anyway, or has it gone soggy? Well, put it on the poll. Would you eat toast that's been sitting in your backpack for 5 hours?
Well, I'll tell you what I do. I eat it because I don't want to waste the food, and then I also realize, hey, I haven't had anything to eat today, and it's almost like noon. I should probably eat something so I don't, faint. But I went across the hall the other day, speaking of microwaves, and I microwaved my toast that had been in my backpack with butter. Delicious.
Not soggy.
Totally soggy. But it was warm, and that's all I wanted at the time. Warm piece of bread. Toss a croqueta in there. Oof.
You have made Chris. Chris has just made a face. The first face I've seen him make around food. Chris does not like. How it is you ate your toast.
Well, because I've heard him, because sometimes it'll be like noon, and he'll take a bite, and it'll crunch. That obviously was before he was using the microwave, because it still has a crunch after 6 hours. It's still, because I've heard, I'll do my thing, all of a sudden I hear a nice crunch, and I look to my right, and I'm like, when did you make that toast? He's like, at my house around 5:30 this morning.
Yeah, I will say there's probably a reason people don't make toast, butter it, and leave it sitting around for 6 to 7 hours. Like, there's probably a reason.
I don't think of toast as something you eat afternoon. Do I have that wrong? Like, I don't think of toast as a lunch item.
But what if it's made before afternoon?
Right.
This is a gray area here, Dan.
Right.
Well, sometimes, you make it before the afternoon, and noon comes around. We're doing a live radio show. We can't eat lunch, and you got to do what you got to do. And so, the toast is sitting right there for him to take a quick
Rome
bite
wasn't
of.
built in a day.
Exactly.
The toast in the afternoon can only come with sandwiches. You can't eat toast by itself after a certain time.
Right.
Like a tuna fish sandwich, but with toasted
Oh,
bread.
I love it. Yeah.
That works. A toasted
Sometimes
sub.
I'll snack on toast, like just one piece, not even the two toasts. You guys do two toasts or one toast when you make toast? Two, right? Sometimes I'll just snack. I'm like a little hungry, don't want to make a whole Sammy. I'll just make one piece of toast, put some butter on it. Do you butter both sides or only one side of your toast?
Do you cut the toast? Or
I think that's a Cuban thing, the buttering of both sides. I think that might be a Cuban thing to dip it in your coffee. Do you dip your toast in your coffee?
Oh, no, that's not toast. That's, God, I'm failing right now.
Pan tostada?
No, yeah, that's a tostada. Tostada
Really?
you put in your café con leche, obviously, yeah. But you have to use the plancha for that, and that's different. That's Cuban bread. Cuban bread also doesn't last more than 15 minutes. So, like, as soon as you get it from Sedano's or wherever, you got to eat the whole loaf because the next day it's a baseball bat.
Yeah, you can fortify most buildings with day-old Cuban bread.
You guys
What sandwich is upgraded the most by toast? Because Mike putting, tuna fish on toast, it makes that sandwich better. Peanut butter and jelly on toast is a lot better than peanut butter. I'm telling you, PB&J on toast is better than PB&J on white bread. I'm telling you.
I'm willing to listen to this take because it works on tuna fish because like the consistency, like the middle part of the sandwich is soggy. So when you have bread, it's just like you put in a soggy mess in your mouth. But if you have the crunch, like you do with PB&J or tuna or chicken salad, I could see this working best.
You guys ever go brekkie for dinner?
Occasionally.
Oh, it's so
I had
good.
cereal a couple days
Head
ago.
over to
yeah.
the International House.
A little pancake. Cereal.
Yeah.
Cereal.
No, you got to go pancakes.
Cereal's late night.
Little scramby eggs.
Nah.
Why do you do Sammys and brekkies? Like, what is it too? Is it too
Why do
hard
people smile?
to say the extra syllable?
People say good morning.
All right, we've got a lot of poll questions here. One of them is PB&J with toast, yes or no? Guy who says Sammy and brekkie to refer to sandwiches and breakfast. Jerk or jackass?
My guy.
Mike, we haven't even gotten to your microwave etiquette question. We'll do so next.
Hold that thought. Let's sell some ads.
It's a Wednesday.
Well, Wednesday or not, you are so eager to talk sandwiches. It's the only time we get your attention. Like it's the only time. I left you for 2 minutes the other day to sit in the penalty box. He's staring at a half-eaten sandwich, and it's what he's decided to make content out of. Like Stugotz wants to do a sandwich show. Instead of sports radio, he wants to do sandwich radio.
I do. I have my top 10 sandwiches if you're interested.
We'll get to them next.
Yes.
Get ready, America.
It's in the pocket where he keeps the coronavirus symptoms.
I can't wait to hear this.
I was going to say, get ready. This is what our show is going to be if sports stop. But honestly, this is what our show is.
And is what's going on. Are we rooting for sports to stop so we
Are
can
you out
just
of your
talk
mind?
about whatever we want to?
I kind of had the low-key observation that our show is like best positioned to operate when there's no sports
I'd be
going
fine
on.
with it. I'd be
And it's
totally
good.
fine with
The
it.
unfortunate part is that it takes a pandemic for everyone else to notice.
Right, but if you take sports away from me, I'm pretty certainly going to get fired. Like, if
Not with Sammy's countdown.
That's right.
Exactly.
Advance Auto Parts, get your battery checked at Advance Auto Parts, and if the battery needs changing, get a new battery at Advance Auto Parts. Support the people who support us, like Advance Auto Parts. Tell them, Stugotz.
Yep, you may not be able to run, throw, or catch like a professional athlete, but now that it's spring, you can get your lawn looking like a professional sports field. Assuming your lawn gear will start, that is. Stop by Advance Auto Parts. They'll test your lawn and garden battery for free. If it needs to be replaced, they have Autocraft lawn and garden battery starting at just $22.99. An incredible deal. Plus, enter the code DAN20 when you buy online to save 20%. That's DAN20 when you buy online for 20% off. Think ahead. Think Advance. Only at Advance Auto Parts.
I don't know if you know this.
Tom Haberstroh going to join us in 15 minutes on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. If you missed any of our interviews, check them out on demand in the Dan Le Batard Show podcast, brought to you by Capital One. Why settle for average? With Capital One, you can open a savings account with a rate 5 times the national average. Welcome to Banking Reimagined. Capital One, what's in your wallet? Capital One N.A., member FDIC.
Tom Haberstroh joins us in 12 minutes or so to talk basketball. We are going to get into basketball here shortly. If there are indeed basketball games, we enjoy covering the NBA playoffs. It's some of the most fun that we have. Mike, have we decided whether we're going to be able to do a mega cast off of one of the playoff games or finals games? Are we going to be able to do that?
No, we haven't found out if we are or not. The ask is in. I was told that people were initially receptive. I think I have to give voice to what I just heard, which was like some hacking in the background. And I know that you're fine. At least I think I know that you're fine.
Right.
But I sort of ran into this in public settings. You guys find yourselves being afraid to cough, because I flew back across country not too long ago. And I think everyone has a feeling now when you hear someone cough in a public setting.
We're judging the coughers. We are.
Yep.
So knowing that privately, I'm also judging the coughers, and I'm just like sort of turning my head, which is the last thing you want to see after a cough, because you know what's running through their mind. Yeah. I find myself suppressing coughs because I just don't want people to think that of me.
Yeah.
We've probably in the history of our existences never been quite as aware of others coughing as we are now. Right now, because this is a full-on media phenomenon where whatever the truth is about how dangerous this stuff is, it's gonna feel like fear-mongering just because of the amount of time it is spending in every portal of access that you have to information. At this point, there's no avoiding this thing, even conversationally or where it is you are in social media. There's no avoiding it anywhere, it seems like, in actual contaminating ways and in ways that are influencing your life, because everyone is sitting there looking over their shoulder at that cougher over there and wondering whether that cougher is someone who needs to be quarantined or sent away. But
it taps into the worst of us, right now.
It really does. Well,
Yes.
these times are when you find out about people. The people fighting over toilet paper, the people gouging you over hand sanitizer.
Yeah, in Miami, we have a unique perspective on this because sometimes it can display the best in people, like neighbors helping you put up shutters when a storm is approaching, or when you're fighting someone in the aisle of a CVS for just a 6 count of toilet paper. That's even single ply, dude. Like, come on.
Right. That's what this is. This is divisive. It is. In fact, I gave a guy at Walgreens yesterday a couple of bucks and my phone number to call me when he got some stuff in. I did. That's what people are doing.
Look, it's taken
I did.
Stugotz. It's taken
Well,
Stugotz.
why do I have to say it? It's
Why
just
would you have to say it, given that you got the sanitizer? You alleged yesterday
Listen,
that you alleged
do you
2
know,
minutes ago.
do you know how quickly I am going to go through that sanitizer? And so just, hey, inform me when there's more. I'll come get it. I'll pay double.
You got the last bottle?
Yeah.
Not that quick. But I do like that it's taken.
Why do
Stugotz.
you lie about stuff like
This
that?
is listen. Normally I do, but this time I'm telling the truth. I mean,
It's taken Stugotz 12
Friend who
minutes
works there.
to turn to the black market of like the Corona capitalism venture.
he's the manager.
Billy, do you?
Where does this lie end if we just follow you down this
Listen,
path?
I'm not naming names. I'm not naming store locations, okay? I'm not looking to get anyone fired. That's not what I'm looking to do.
Why would you have to bribe a store manager
That's
if you
his friend.
just got done? If that is his
Do
friend.
you think the coronavirus is just here for a couple of days? It could be around for a while, and I want to make sure I'm prepared and I have all the necessary things that me and my family need.
So
you do what you have to do for your family, Dan.
And that's getting a dealer.
Billy, you're looking at Stugotz right now with withering judgment.
You guys should be planning the same way I am. Seriously, I'm trying to give
by
you tips.
telling everybody lies.
I feel stunned. Like, I feel like I've just been hit. Like, I'm in the middle of like a tornado of lies, and I'm just like confused. Like, where am I right now?
He's grown a gigantic lie tree with roots going everywhere.
There you are. It is spreading faster and more dangerously than the coronavirus itself.
We'll give you the opportunity. We won't even be mad. Just say that you lied.
Just say that you lied about
my friend
about
who's the manager
getting
at
the
Walgreens.
hand sanitizer.
Oh no, I got hand sanitizer, Dan. I did. I got hand sanitizer. Yes, I did. I got it yesterday.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Did your friend call and tell you it was there? or you
No,
just lucked
that is
into
for
it?
future hand sanitizer. You are not following the story. Yesterday, there was a random
it's
bottle.
so complicated. The story has so many layers and
Listen,
chapters.
it's really not that complicated. Yesterday, I was lucky enough, timing is everything in life, to walk into the local Walgreens or CVS, I have no idea which one, and I found a bottle of hand sanitizer. I bought that. I bought some other stuff like nasal, Afrin no-drip nasal spray for some reason, just because there was some left. And so I bought some Mucinex as well. What I did was my friend who's the manager is I said, listen, I'm going to run out of this sanitizer quickly. When you get more in, here's my phone number. Give me a call, and I'll rush to the store and buy some more. That's all I did.
Of course, your close personal friend who manages a store you don't know the name of.
I'm not naming names of stores, or am I naming names? I'm not looking to get anyone
Look,
fired.
you guys need to understand as this tree of lies grows, you guys need to understand that Stugotz's greatest tell beyond rubbing his arm when he's telling a lie
is breathing.
Is a bunch of details that come with that breathing. Just Mucinex. He thinks it covers it.
They hate us because they ain't us.
I took bites out of my sandwich. 2 to 3 bites out of my sandwich. Left it there. Wrapped it up. Put it in a container. It has my name on it. My name was on it. I went back during the commercial break to finish that sandwich, which was delicious. And someone unwrapped a sandwich. First off, opened the plastic box that had my name on it. Unwrapped a piece of tinfoil. Underneath of that was the gyro.
It was a
delicious.
theft.
Someone ate my sandwich. I took 3 bites of it, and I'd like to know who took it.
I want to get that security feed. We're going to find out around here. Did you guys get that footage yet? We're going to keep chasing it until the end of time.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance, making it easy to bundle your home and car insurance. All guests on the Dan Le Batard Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Tom Haberstroh going to join us there in just a second. Here's your SportsCenter update. The NBA Board of Governors will hold a conference call with the Commissioner's office today to discuss options in dealing with the coronavirus. One of the ideas that is on the table is the option of moving games to NBA cities that haven't been stricken with outbreaks. Brown center J.C. Tretter was elected NFL Players Association president by the Board of Player Representatives. And finally, deep scars do not regenerate with sweat glands. So, if you are out doing yard work and the rest of your body is covered in dirt, an exposed deep scar would be dirt-free. Here's the SelectQuote difference. Most companies give you one option, one policy, one rate, but SelectQuote shops it could get you up to 10 options from highly rated life insurance companies for a free personalized quote. Call 800-780-1010 or go to SelectQuote.com today. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in to SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
So we got to get to Stugotz's top 10 sandwiches. We're about to rifle through Stugotz's backpack of lies here because he says that all of these things that he bought yesterday are in his backpack. So we're about to look through his backpack. But first, we got to go to Tom Haberstroh, NBC Sports NBA insider. He is host of the Haberstroh podcast. It's not the Haberstroh podcast. It's the Haberstroh podcast.
I don't get it.
And we love talking to him about what the numbers are telling us. Thank you, Tom, for making time for us. Is the way that the Houston Rockets are playing small ball, is it the most inventive, efficient way that they can play with a flawed roster?
I hated the deal for Russell Westbrook. Hated it at the time. I was saying that Damian Lillard in the playoffs and the rest of the NBA had gone and just wiped Russell Westbrook off the face of the NBA because I thought he was inefficient. The style of play that he does, where he loves taking inefficient mid-range and three-point shots, it was from a bygone era. And then they go and they trade away all their 7-footers and decide, hey, you cannot stay in front of Russell Westbrook in one-on-one situations, and he's going to get to the rack every single time. So I was really wrong about that take this summer when they traded for Russell Westbrook because I was assuming that in order to play James Harden and Russell Westbrook, you had to have a guy who is going to anchor the paint, like Clint Capella, like a Steven Adams, like a Rudy Gobert. But they have tried this thing with Robert Covington and P.J. Tucker being their big men, and it's working. And I love what they did because you need an efficient Russell Westbrook. Since that move, he's leading the NBA in points per game in the paint. And I think when you look at efficiency-wise, this is how you have to play with a Russell Westbrook. And it's also how you have to play with a guy like Ben Simmons. But unfortunately, they have all of these bigs, Tobias Harris, Joel Embiid, not a lot of shooters to space the floor. They can't do a 5-out system. But the Rockets are saying the status quo was not working. They recognize that, and they're making an inventive move. But I do think it's odd that we say this is incredibly innovative. It's something we haven't seen before. When didn't we all love the We Believe Warriors for the same exact thing? Like the Nelly Ball Warriors that upset Dirk Nowitzki in the first round of the playoffs, the 1-8 upset with Steven Jackson, Al Harrington, and Baron Davis. Like that was the same idea, is we cannot win by playing conventional basketball. So we have to kind of change the system and make sure they go for high variance, something that is, might not be winning every game, but we need to have the highest ceiling possible. And that team did it, and now we're seeing Mike D'Antoni do it again.
What do you think happens differently if in a Game 7 a couple of years ago against the Warriors, the Rockets had just hit a normal amount of threes as opposed to having a historically awful night? How does everything change in the league and with them over the last couple of years if they'd merely beaten Golden State in that Game 7 because some of their jumpers had fallen?
Isn't that crazy? I mean, I think about Chris Paul a lot. Chris Paul is known as the guy who can't win the big one. He can't win the championship. And if a couple of those jumpers fall, Chris Paul, like statistically, Chris Paul is one of the best players of all time. He is. Like, you look at all the numbers, and he is one of the best point guards in NBA history, if not like one of the top 3 point guards in NBA history. But he hasn't won in big playoff moments in the finals. He hasn't even been there. So I think The game itself probably changes a little bit, but I think you're seeing all these teams are going to 5-out systems. The Milwaukee Bucks watched what the Houston Rockets did, and they said, let's do a 5-out system too. So I think the Rockets winning a championship with their style of play certainly would make teams step on the gas and play a little bit more three-point ball for sure. But I think we're already seeing that. And, I think you look at the Sixers where they doubled down on size and playing big. It hasn't worked out at all this season. But it would change a lot of the reputation that James Harden has, that Chris Paul has, Mike D'Antoni. And it would be an incredible achievement, but obviously that didn't happen. But I still think the lessons that we learned from the Rockets, people are copying that and just playing 5-out. And I think when you see Andre Drummond go for a second-round pick, I think that really proves that centers, that what Daryl Morey did and just traded away all their bigs, I think a lot of teams are going to copy that.
Tom, who do you think the next Nets head coach will be?
I think it's Ty Lue. I think he's been waiting for a job like that. He took the assistant coaching job under Doc Rivers for the Clippers with the intention that, hey, when a big-time spot opens up, I'm going to pounce on that. And I don't know if there's a job that's available that has the market size with Brooklyn and the star power with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. And I think he makes a lot of sense there. Tom Thibodeau is an interesting name, not for the Brooklyn job, but I think the Knicks job is fascinating for Thibodeau. So I think in that city, I'm hearing a lot of Tom Thibodeau to the Knicks and Ty Lue for the Brooklyn Nets.
Tom Haberstroh with us, NBC Sports NBA Insider. He is host of the Haberstroh podcast. You have now mentioned what I believe is still a 6 seed. We've talked about this 6 seed more than we've ever talked about a 6 seed. You mentioned a couple of times Simmons and Embiid. What's going to end up happening there?
Wait, we've talked about the Sixers more than the Houston Rockets?
Good point.
Okay.
Fair point.
I feel it's about even. It's about a push. We've talked an awful lot about Embiid and Simmons. So what do you think is going to happen there?
Man, my feeling is if those two guys are healthy, Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid are healthy, I have a tough time putting them above. I mean, I have a tough time putting any team above that Sixers team with those two guys healthy, outside of Milwaukee, outside of Boston. Like if they go head to head with Miami, like that's like a coin flip to me. With those two guys, Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, it's close. They came to Kawhi Leonard, that last second shot, a few bounces away from upsetting Kawhi Leonard and the eventual champions. That doesn't mean that they can do that again, but the Boston Celtics here are looking at a first-round matchup against the 76ers in what I think a few months ago, people wouldn't be surprised if that was the Eastern Conference Finals. So, I think when you look at the fit of Al Horford, the whole point of getting Al Horford, and people mistake this, the whole point of getting Al Horford is to not have the entire team combust when Joel Embiid walks off the floor. Last postseason, it was ridiculous. Stuff that we haven't seen in NBA history. When Joel Embiid was off the floor, they were outscored by a bazillion points, and that was the season. That was the postseason. If he wasn't playing all 48 minutes, they could not play winning basketball. So Al Horford, when he's there, it is to make sure you plug that hole. Is whenever Joel Embiid leaves the court for whatever reason, you have another a starter caliber center out on the floor. They just did not have that last year. Remains to be seen, whether they can get enough shooting. But right now, if those two guys aren't healthy, I think they're a first round out.
Do the Lakers, any game they play, ever not have two of the best three players on the court?
I don't think Anthony Davis is there in my book. I would have James Harden in that. I would have I might even have Luka above Anthony Davis right now. Luka is like single-handedly.
No, teammates. I'm talking about combos. Two of the best three players. That does anyone have two players better than the two the Lakers have?
No. I mean, LeBron James and Anthony Davis are probably the best. Then you have, of course, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. James Harden and Russell Westbrook are probably third in my book. But look, I think the LeBron James MVP case, I think it's overstated. I think we're forcing it. I think we're coming to the end of the season, so we need something to talk about. But to me, it's Giannis all the way. And LeBron has been incredible. Year 17, hashtag Wash King, all that stuff is really cool. But it shouldn't affect the MVP race. And I think when you look at Anthony Davis, he's been great. But in today's NBA, I think what you need to have is a guy who can get the ball and dominate the ball all the time. Because look at Dallas Mavericks. They have the number one offense in the NBA by a huge margin, and the ball is just in Luka Doncic's hands the entire time. I don't know if bigs have quite the same impact as they used to in different rules in this era, but still Anthony Davis is good enough that I would put him and LeBron James as the top two guys. Top two teammates in the NBA.
Are you with Legler? I'm sorry, excuse me. Are you with Legler? I'm just going to interrupt you on that doesn't mean because I need we're out of time here. Are you with Legler on the idea that you take Luka over Zion by a good amount for the next 10 years?
A good amount. I think that's pushing it, but I would definitely take Luka Doncic. I mean, you look at the injury risk profile of Zion Williamson. We haven't seen anything like that at that size with the knee issues coming into the league. I'm not alone in that. People around the league are worried about Zion's long-term health. The actual ability to play basketball, it's probably a toss-up. But in terms of profiling his injury risk going forward, it's less of a good bet when you're talking about Zion versus Luka.
Tom, we'll talk to you. Thank you. Always appreciate the insight. NBC Sports NBA insider, host of the Haberstroh podcast. We appreciate the time, sir.
Thanks, fellas.
Stugotz's top 10 sandwiches next.
King Kong ain't got nothing on us.
If you missed any of our interviews, check them out on demand in the Dan Le Batard Show podcast brought to you by Capital One. With Capital One, you can open a new checking or savings account with no fees or minimums. Welcome to Banking Reimagined. Capital One. What's in your wallet? Approval required. Capital One NA, member FDIC. Dan, it's time for Straight Talk. It is brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless.
Happy 41st birthday to Elton Brand.
And happy birthday to him. I don't care. Good luck.
Is he younger than Vince Carter? Elton Brand, it feels like the Sixers general manager. When I tell you he is 41 years old, I think that is younger than Vince Carter. But we saw the game physically of Elton Brand. It feels like Elton Brand has been out of the sport for 10 years.
Vince is 43 years old. Vinsanity.
Brand, not a great year.
No,
terrible contracts dished out. Tobias Harris, you shouldn't be paying him that kind of money. Got rid of the shooters. It's not really working out. Understanding that the injuries are certainly not helping their situation.
Let go of Jimmy Butler, chose basically, or
I'm still not entirely sure what happened with Jimmy Butler. I don't know if they were not willing to give him an extra year, if Jimmy was just dead set on going to
But hasn't
Miami.
Jimmy Butler told you that he didn't think that everybody there was about winning, that he didn't love the locker room? I mean, I feel like he said that already.
Yeah, I don't know how that correlates to, like, the offer and how much exactly Elton Brand wanted him. He gave up assets for him.
Isn't the assumption always, as it relates to Jimmy Butler, that given how much he's talked about that locker room, given that Udonis Haslem has said, if you put him around cats, he's going to growl. But if you put him around dogs, he's going to feel right at home. Isn't the assumption naturally that because Ben Simmons is in this Kardashian world, that Ben Simmons is the one that everyone is talking about here? I don't feel like it's Embiid. Jimmy Butler and Embiid seem like they're fine. So if Jimmy Butler had a problem in the Philadelphia locker room, didn't it have to be with Simmons?
It's all speculation, but it seems pretty obvious to those speculating that it has to be Simmons. When there's someone calling together a player meeting It's Al Horford. It's Josh Richardson who's trying to be a leader there, and that should be Ben Simmons' team.
Doesn't Jimmy Butler have a problem with just about any locker room that he's in? I mean, he's always had a problem.
Yeah,
so now he made it his locker room.
Yeah, but Stugotz, if you see Jimmy Butler's history, it was always put on Jimmy Butler as if he is the problem. And you see what happens when he leaves Chicago. And everyone realizes, oh, Chicago's front office and that team, that's a mess. He leaves Minnesota. The only time they ever do any sort of winning is when he is there and healthy. He leaves, and you're saying the same things that you said about Chicago. And now you look, he leaves Philadelphia, understanding that they did other things to tweak the roster construction, and Jimmy Butler might not have been the problem the whole time.
Let's get to Stugotz's top 10 sandwiches. If you were with us earlier, this is the Stugotz wheelhouse. It might be the only Stugotz wheelhouse, or the strongest Stugotz wheelhouse, I should say. Number 10, according to Stugotz, the 10th best sandwich throughout history
The
is
tongue twister. PB&J on toast. On toast, that's the important part. And by the way, everyone on Twitter is agreeing with me. Peanut butter and jelly on toast is my 10th best sandwich.
Number 9, Stugotz.
Meatball parm sub.
A strong 10 and a 9.
You
I
like
thought
that?
both of those would be higher. Why Skeptical Billy?
I know what number one is.
I think we all
have
do.
my own list.
I think we all know. We can
I
all
don't think any of you know what number one is, to be honest.
I'm surprised that meatball parm was so low on this list.
Well,
all right, let's on the count of 3, or 3, 2, 1. Let's all say at the same time what we think number 1 is.
Does he have it written down, or is he going to switch this up on
I
us?
have it written down.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
Chicken
parm. Okay, we all feel like we know. Number 8, Stugotz.
A cheesesteak.
Wow. Number 7, Stugotz.
BLT.
Pretty good list so far. Number 6.
Turkey roast beef sub.
Very high. Very high. Number 5.
Have you tried it from Publix?
Number 5. Well, the Publix sub in general is a wonder. Number 5.
Tuna on toast with Ruffles potato chips.
What? That's better than a cheesesteak?
It is. Have
you
tried
lost
it?
your mind?
Oh yeah, put the
In the sandwich.
Put the chips on the tuna, crunch it up with the toast.
Little texture.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Quite frankly, I was thinking about putting it at number 1, but it's at number 5.
I'm offended.
Number 4. Number 4, according to Stugotz.
Billy, in fact, I wrote it in at number 2, and then I had to push it down. Number 4 is the Turkey Club. I like toast, man.
Number 3.
The patty melt.
Number 2.
Grilled cheese, tomato, bacon. Side of fries.
And so we already know the number 1, right?
Nah.
Number 1.
Chicken cutlet, not chicken parm. Chicken cutlet, melted cheese, cheddar cheese, lettuce, mayonnaise, salt, pepper, light on the lettuce.
What's the sauce?
How about that?
No sauce?
Yeah,
It's
mayonnaise.
how about that sauce?
It's mayo.
Where'd the chicken
You forgot
parm
chicken
go?
parm.
Chicken parm. I like chicken parm as a dish, not as a sandwich.
We've
to be
done this
honest with you.
before where you chose that. We've done the sandwich
That
topics
was then.
before.
This is now. I mean, that is Straight Talk. It is brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Everything for less, only at Walmart.
We are the sexiest show in the sports.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. All guests on the Dan Le Batard Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Here's your SportsCenter update. The NBA Board of Governors will hold a conference call with the Commissioner's Office today to discuss options in dealing with the coronavirus. One of the ideas that is on the table is the option of moving games to NBA cities that haven't been stricken with outbreaks. Brown Center J.C. Treader was elected NFL Players Association president by the Board of Player Representatives. And finally, according to Neil deGrasse Tyson, there are 118 known elements in the periodic table. The last time the Knicks won an NBA title There were only 105. I hate them. I love Neil. But God, do I hate them. Where do you need a Blink security camera? On your porch to help protect deliveries? Helping keep your family safe when you travel? Alerting you when the kids get home from school? Where do you need Blink security cameras? Visit blinkprotect.com/Dan. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in to SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
When you talk about cities without the coronavirus, it has to be cities that don't have many tourists, right? So are we going to have like NBA games played in some remote part of Alaska or the middle of the country? Like everyone's going to be flying into some podunk town that doesn't have anyone flying in from the West?
No, even in his update, specifically NBA cities without it. Unless there's breaking news on this front, Miami-Dade County doesn't have a recorded positive test result just yet. So Miami would qualify, I guess.
But Broward does, so stands to reason that we'll have something in Dade County soon, right?
I don't want to play this game.
I know, but everyone's playing this game.
It feels the way that this is growing that this might be all a dated conversation by show's end.
So we are following all of this, monitoring it, and nobody knows what to do. But Stugotz hit us with what we think is an avalanche of lies earlier that we are about to test here. But the news has just broken that Harvey Weinstein, the disgraced Hollywood mogul who it appears very obvious now is also a rapist, he has been sentenced to 23 years for all his money, for all his bluster, for all his power, for all the stories that you heard and have seen reported about how awful this guy was, bloated on ego and drunk on power. 23 years is something that I'm surprised to see because I thought having all the money in the world, even though the Weinstein Company had to declare bankruptcy, would protect him from some of this stuff, as we often think of the justice system and lawyers being able to do with money things that the poor can't do. But he's still facing stuff in Los Angeles. This is just the New York stuff. He's in Rikers Island right now. So he is going to spend the rest of his life in jail and a hellish existence in jail for a guy who comes from, bloated on power, creating Quentin Tarantino, feeling like he ran Hollywood. He thought defiantly and drunk on power and ego when these initial claims came out, he thought that he was going to be able to beat all of it. He fought it vigorously. When you hear and read about the lengths he went to prohibit the publishing of that story by Ronan Farrow of the New York Times, one of the best young reporters we've ever seen across journalism, who basically started the Me Too movement because of his reporting. Woody Allen's, from the Woody Allen family, although he's feuding with Woody Allen and has been for a long time. This young person started a movement. How old is Ronan Farrow? Is he now? These stories were in 2017, but I don't think he was even 30 at the time that he was reporting these stories. And he basically started the Me Too movement by helping empower women.
He's 32 years old now.
Right. So how long ago were the stories?
Yeah,
right?
2017. So he was in his late 20s. But, this started because of Ronan Farrow's reporting. Ronan Farrow, if you've been following any of the things that he's been saying, the lengths that Harvey Weinstein went to in order to make the New York Times and Ronan Farrow feel threatened, feel prohibited, feel handcuffed by the reporting of that story, the denial, the bluster on the denial. There was a monster in our midst, Stugotz, and you know that I extend empathy almost anywhere. I try to extend compassion. I'm not rooting for someone to spend the rest of their life rotting in jail, miserable and hurting. But in this particular case, the things are so ugly that it's hard for me to summon anything in the way of compassion for the way that this man abused his power and fought this in a way that seems now to be wrapped and soaked in a bunch of lies. This was a predator. This was a rapist. This was an abuser of power. And 23 years in jail is just sort of the beginning of his punishments, because There's no way he's going to get out of jail now, right? Harvey Weinstein dies in jail, even with good behavior, given that there are more charges.
Oh, Dan, he dies in jail, yes. But are you surprised that he came out with that kind of bluster at the beginning? I mean, because people did feel threatened. They did, and he thought he was going to be able to beat the case, but that shouldn't be surprising to anyone, considering.
I'm surprised that Harvey Weinstein is going to die in jail the same way that I'm surprised that Bill Cosby is in jail, and it's no other reason than O.J. Simpson's not in jail. Like, when you have money and you have legal means, you can push the system around a little bit, and he was not able to. After a lifetime of pushing everyone around,
Right.
after a lifetime of physically pushing men and women around, this guy is getting something here that is, I am surprised by 23 years. Yes, I thought, given the initial gap of this can be anywhere from 5 to 25 years, the idea that the judge has said this might be your first offense, but you are not actually a first-time offender on this, and that the judge hit him with what feels like the sternest possible penalty, he has lost everything because of his behavior toward women. He has lost the Hollywood life. He has lost the Hollywood power. He has now lost all of his freedom. And this kind of thing, even as his spokesman and his people say that he's as well as you can be doing under the circumstance, this kind of fall from grace is exactly why it is that you have to be in solitary confinement on suicide watch, because it's not just that your existence is going to be awful in jail. It's that it's going to be especially awful because you have grown very accustomed to creature comforts, and this is not a white-collar crime situation. Rikers Island is going to be deeply unpleasant for anyone who's been there. Jason Williams told us on that South Beach session, he gave us some of the details on what his experiences were like at Rikers Island. This is a 6'10" dude who is, physically strong, and he was saying that as soon as he got there, the awful stuff started happening. Like, the moment that he's arriving and being introduced to others, there was awful, awful stuff. So I'm guessing that many of you are made happy by today's news that the rest of Harvey Weinstein's life is going to be a misery.
Made happy and probably want him in general population in Rikers Island. I'm guessing most people would want that. They would want him to have to suffer that fate. Yes.
I'm not normally that person on just about anybody. You heard me say here on the air that I winced at Saddam Hussein walking through the gallows toward his death, because that's terrifying for anybody, whether they deserve it or not. And obviously, if anyone deserved it, Saddam Hussein is pretty high on the list of people who deserve it, but I can't summon compassion for this person. And I'm surprised that I haven't been able to summon compassion for it. Let's see if we could catch Stugotz in his lies.
What?
An awkward transition, admittedly. We're going to do that next, though. I am telling you that we are going to go through Stugotz's bag next to find out if indeed he was lying, as he always is whenever he's breathing.
Pay that man his money.
A bit unfair.
Is it a bit unfair?
Whenever I breathe, I mean.
No.
I don't feel like it's that unfair. I feel like your body of work precedes you.
I think it's very fair.
Advance Auto Parts. Update your mechanics' tools by heading over to Advance Auto Parts so that you can do more for yourself. But if you can't do it for yourself, Advance Auto Parts can do it for you. Tell them, God.
Spring is your chance to make your lawn look like the perfectly trimmed work of art. You watch your favorite team run across on TV, but before you get to work, make sure you can get to work. Advance Auto Parts will test your lawn and garden battery for free. If it needs to be replaced, grab an Autocraft lawn and garden battery starting at just $22.99. Plus, enter the code DAN20 when you buy online to save 20%. Think ahead. Think Advance. Only at Advance Auto Parts.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
College basketball season, and that means the Wendy's Wooden Watch is on. Go to ESPN.com and search Wooden Watch for the list of players on the Wooden Award 2019-2020 men's and women's national ballot. Keep an eye out for Oregon guard Sabrina Ionescu. Last season's Wooden Award winner leads all of women's D1 college basketball in assists per game with 9.1. The Wooden Watch is brought to you by Wendy's, proud sponsor of the 2020 John R. Wooden Men's and Women's Player of the Year.
Mick Foley going to join us here in about 45 minutes, and we will get to uncovering what we believe to be Stugotz's avalanche of lies in a second. But speaking of lies, here is the quote from, this is Harvey Weinstein's attorney after the New York Times expose that started all of this came out. Charles Harder said, quote, "The New York Times published today a story that is saturated with false and defamatory statements about Harvey Weinstein." This is something he sent in an email to The Hollywood Reporter. "It relies on mostly hearsay accounts and a faulty report apparently stolen from an employee personnel file, which has been debunked by 9 different eyewitnesses. We sent the Times the facts and evidence, but they ignored it and rushed to publish. We are preparing the lawsuit now. All proceeds will be donated to women's organizations."
It's not exactly apples to apples, Stugotz, those two lies. But you lied regardless.
They are not apples to apples, but Harvey Weinstein has gotten 23 years in prison, and the news has just broken here. And when you read about the details of how Ronan Farrow was threatened, and even the previous media organization that he worked with didn't seem to have the stomach for doing what Ronan Farrow was doing with his reporting. So he had to go elsewhere in order to get that story published. That's where, I mean, that is a sea change in America. Everything you see happening now with the strength of women and women finding a voice in the reaching for equality, everything you see publicly in terms of pressure, marches, women demanding equality and having the strength of voice to demand equality, it begins there. Like, it's not that long ago, but it begins with that report and Ronan Farrow's bravery in being able to, and obviously the bravery of the women to go public with that information and go after a power source that clearly was a bully and would use that power in ways that are sexually offensive and just generally offensive. But speaking of generally offensive, and again, it's not apples to apples. It's not at all.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
Stugotz told an avalanche of lies, or what we believe to be an avalanche of lies, earlier in the show. How do we cover exactly what all the lies were, guys? Because he said it was a CVS or a Walgreens. He is a hypochondriac. He will absolutely overreact to any sort of pain or fear that he has.
So he's gone back and forth between CVS and Walgreens. The manager was his friend and then became someone who he may or may not have bribed. He doesn't want to give his name, not because he doesn't know it, but for his own protection.
Right. Not naming names, not naming stores.
Exactly.
Just not doing it.
He did name stores.
He also happened to be there because timing's everything in life, Dano, but then also had the guy tip him off because he bribed him. And in the latest break, which everybody else isn't privy to, but we got, apparently he was there for a prescription. He also, and this he hasn't wavered on, bought 3 packs of Goobers for $3.
Okay, but he also said he got hand sanitizer at a time that nobody could get hand sanitizer. He just said he walked in, strolled in, and got hand sanitizer.
I strolled in and I cleaned that place out. That's what I did.
All right, let's see what's actually in his bag here, because this is not a radio bit. This is the book bag that Stugotz brings in every day, or the backpack, excuse me.
Let's start with the big pocket, okay? The big pocket. I put everything in my backpack.
I will help the listeners on radio here as it's on ESPN Ooze. Again, he is a hypochondriac, so it's not surprising at all that he would overreact in some ways.
Here is the first item in the big pocket of my backpack.
Some
the
wipes.
Clorox disinfecting wipes, killing 99.9% of viruses and bacteria.
That's for like houses.
I
not
got it.
your
Yes.
hands.
Listen, you got to do what you got to do. Okay.
All right, keep it moving. Let's go.
Okay.
Let's keep it moving because there's a lot of stuff in this
Wouldn't
bag.
the studio be a place that you would use it?
Here's the second item I purchased. I got a hair dryer. I mean, listen, you never know. We don't know how long we're going to be inside, and so I figured I needed a hair dryer.
Hair dryer. All right. Keep it moving, Stugotz.
And bacteria cannot live in the heat, in case you didn't know, Dan. So a little hair dryer to blow it
for
away.
the
How about
bacteria
that?
in your hair. Okay, very good.
Oh, I picked up some Got to Be mesmerizing. If your hair is messy, this will make it less messy. I got some
Can
of
you
that.
show us the stuff that has to do with you trying to disinfect yourself?
hairspray.
Let's keep it moving, Stugotz, please.
Okay, hold on a second. Here is the Sudafed I purchased. Got some Sudafed, little Sooty.
Not one of the like in demand.
Yeah.
A little Sooty.
Yeah. I got some Act Dry Mouth gum because that's one of the symptoms.
Well, but gum's not going to fix it. It's just going to make your mouth feel
No,
better.
that's moisturizing gum. I got, as I told you guys, the Afrin No Drip. How about that?
Yeah.
Okay, 12 hours.
This is all waiting around for sanitizer that doesn't exist.
Boom! How about that?
Whoa.
How about a big green bottle?
That's aloe.
Oh, wow. Someone owes me some money. Oh, bait and switch.
No wonder.
Wait a minute.
Some Mucinex. I thought that was the hand sanitizer.
So,
This
you really buy
guy,
6
lose
of
my
those?
number. I mean,
That's aloe.
how about that?
What is that?
That is Biotine moisturizing spray.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Not only is that aloe,
Granola bar.
not only is that aloe and not hand sanitizer, can you please, Mike, go get our makeup person, Lucio?
Little airborne.
What
Because
flavor?
Stugotz,
Lemon lime.
Oh wow.
Been in there for a year and a half.
Hold on a second. This is funny here because I'm pretty sure I recognize that particular aloe. And my question to Lucio is a yes or no question. Lucio, did Stugotz steal that aloe from you thinking it was hand sanitizer? Yes or no?
Yes, it's right.
I mean, you can have the old bait and switch, Lucio.
Stugotz, you liar!
Yeah.
He stole that from you. He stole.
That's mine. That's mine.
I mean, you can have it back. I mean, it's aloe.
This is like the heist movie where the criminal is just incompetent. How is it possible that you tried to steal hand sanitizer to lie and instead stole some aloe?
They hate us because they ain't us.
24/7, a part of always being prepared is always being hydrated. Bolt 24 has antioxidant, vitamins A and C, electrolytes with watermelon and sea salt, and no artificial sweeteners or flavors. Bolt 24 is all-day hydration for all-day athletes. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in to SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
I have a shameful admission to make here, and I'm going to do it disguised as a poll question, okay? Because I don't want to make this shameful admission and be alone with it. I'm not proud of this. That's why it's shameful. I am, a sports person, paid for sports opinions, allegedly. Someone who's supposed to have basic nuts and bolts knowledge on the things that he talks about. So put this on the poll, please. Guillermo, did you know that Kenny Atkinson wasn't black? At LeBatard Show. At LeBatard Show, did you know? Mike is a snob. He is. I'm not proud of this. I am not proud of what's happening there. But you guys know that I do not follow the guys coaching in the league. I think a lot of that stuff is overrated. As I've aged, the knowledge that has fallen out of my library, stadium names, I'm no good at. Uniform numbers, I'm no good at.
Those are always changing, though. Skin tone, typically.
Understood.
Stays the same.
I know, but typically Kenny Atkinson is not white. Typically, that name, I believe, might have. Can I get some help? Did everyone in the other room?
I guess you're doing a Kenny thing, but why aren't you doing an Atkinson?
I'm doing both. Yeah. I'm doing both, actually. I'm doing the whole thing.
Yeah?
It's not just
Name
Kenny.
another Atkinson.
I don't know. I don't know a lot of Kennys either.
G. Well, Kenny G, right. But Kenny Smith. So I feel like Kenny could go either way,
So put it on the poll. Let's see.
The only other Atkinson I know is Mr. Bean. Yeah, Rowan.
You can put it on the poll at LeBatard Show to see if anyone else is with me on this.
Mr. Bean, not black.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate all of your good work in this area. Chris, can you please help me with something? Why are you done with internet buys? Why are you done with purchasing things online?
Because they lie to you, okay? They say something is one price, and then you end up spending $4 on fees, this on tax, blah, blah, blah. Next thing you know, it's $10 more. Just tell me the price on the front end, what it's going to be. If a ticket is, if you say it's $25,
right,
and then after all the fees, it ends up being $38, just tell me $38. I'll still buy the ticket, and I'll feel better about it.
Once you put it in your shopping cart, tell me it's $38, right?
Right.
That's it, right.
And these convenience fees. It's like, what are you doing to make my life more convenient, all right? I'm helping you. I'm purchasing something from you.
I mean, existing on the internet so you don't have to go to the store is probably
no.
There shouldn't be a
fee. Did you really just ask how they're making it convenient?
No,
I'm helping them. I'm giving them business.
Those are fake fees. I'll tell you why. I got into the practice of driving to, if we're talking about like live events, like sporting events, concerts, etc. I've gotten into the practice of going to the venue to not pay the extra fees because it's like $5, $6 a ticket, and I'm spending probably the same exact amount on gas and wasting a ton of time, but I, as a principled stance, do not want to pay those convenience fees. And then I found that there's places that still charge you the exact same fee if you go and do it in person, so I totally wasted my time. I'd rather honestly be told, like, hey, you're paying $50 for this ticket, no fees, and I'm like, whoa, I got one over on you guys, than say, hey, you're paying $36, but there's $14 in fees per ticket, because then I'm upset. I'm upset, Dan, because I feel like I'd been had for $14 that I didn't have to pay when it's the exact same $50. Lie to me and tell me that there's no fees and charge me the fees anyways.
Dan, how do you feel about fees?
Well, I want to ask you guys this question, right, because I knew this was going to head my way, and what's happened since I've gotten married, and Stugotz warned me that this would be so. He's been complaining about Abby for a long time in terms of the number of boxes
that helps
that arrive every time I come home. Every single time, there's a new box in the front of our house. That's not something I've ever done before. I purchased precious little online. I've told you guys before that I was at Trader Joe's recently, and I'm holding cash in front of the cashier, and the cashier at 6 o'clock at night is sort of disoriented, not paying attention. The cash is in his face for a approximately 30 seconds, and then he snapped to from his daydreaming and was like, oh, whoa, I forgot we take cash. I didn't get any cash at any
Extra
point today.
condescending when he says it like that.
Well, but he didn't even mean it that way. He had just, I wasn't even insulted. He genuinely.
I forgot cash existed.
He genuinely had that reaction because he wasn't paying attention that way. He was waiting for the charge to process. And so I'll answer your question this way by asking you guys another question, because this sea change has been so fast that I was genuinely confused the other day, because Jeff Bezos has become the world's richest man who could throw $1 billion at climate change, who could somehow pay no taxes because he's pouring all of his money right back into Amazon.
Who can lose half his stuff in divorce and still be the world's wealthiest
and
man.
make her one of the wealthiest people on earth just by getting divorced from him, because he's trying to change and has been trying to change. It's a fascinating model, actually. Mike Schur had told us on South Beach Sessions that Amazon originally began as a bookstore online, and people were like, why is Amazon doing this?
Just to be clear, we knew that before Mike told us.
Yes, we knew that, but the part of this that we didn't know is that it was a strategy. Nobody knew at the time, while questioning, why are you getting into the bookstore business? Is it because you're trying to take over all of retail? And the thing that I wanted to ask you guys, as I see that Miami
Don't you think that's a bizarre gambit? Yeah. I know how to get America books.
Books online.
You're going to question the way Bezos did it?
I'm questioning his full intention. Yeah, because like whether it was like first we're going to start with books and then the world. Why books then? Why not TP?
I would love to ask him. See if we can get him, Allison, because I've got a lot of questions for Jeff Bezos. But the question I wanted to ask you guys is, because I saw that I think by 2025, it's going to take 5 years to build or something, Miami is angling for the largest mall, or South Florida is angling for the largest mall in the history of malls. And I just thought that's a strange place to invest. Am I wrong? Are people still going to malls given this proliferation, this outbreak of online shopping?
I've heard this before. We're supposed to have a water park at Dolphin Stadium also.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens if that mall ever happens. What happened to the roller coaster at Dolphin Mall? Don't think I forgot Dolphin Mall.
Yeah.
Been 25 years. Where is that
was
thing?
supposed to become a Six Flags.
Yeah.
These are all urban legends
Come on,
that they
Dan.
told us.
Don't
Hold
fall for
on.
it again.
How do we get here from fees?
Right. Did you answer the question or what happened?
Blockbuster Park.
How do you
remember that
play?
one?
You answer the question by asking another question.
The reason is because it is an answer to the question. You guys still haven't answered my question of are malls still a thing? Because I am not someone who makes online purchases. I'm someone who continues to go to stores and continues to feel lonely going to stores. You will not get me to put my credit card information into a computer. You won't get me to do it.
By you going to the stores, you mean sending me, right?
That's exactly
You
what
don't
I
strike
mean.
me as like the Black Friday
An
shopper.
army of helpers. That's exactly what I mean. I didn't answer your question. You guys were more egregious in not answering mine.
Pay that man his money.
I mean, it seems like your wife is doing a good enough job on her own of putting your information into the computer.
That's correct.
Yep.
That is correct.
And thanks for putting my business out there. I appreciate that.
You put it out there.
With non-friends like you, who needs enemies?
Sorry. I stepped on your joke. Blink. Know who's coming in and out of your house by installing Blink cameras inside and outside of your home. Tell them about it, Stugotz.
Yep. Where do you need a Blink security camera on your porch to help protect deliveries, helping keep your family safe when you travel, alerting you when the kids get home from school? Blink cameras are motion activated. When they detect something, they send an alert and a video clip to your Blink smartphone app. And the Blink XD2 features two-way talk. System start at just $79.99. So, where do you need Blink cameras? Visit blinkprotect.com/Dan. That's blinkprotect.com/Dan.
We constantly stumble into excellence.
Mick Foley going to join us in about 15 minutes. If you missed any of the show, you can listen to all 3 hours of the Dan Le Batard Show, plus our Miami-only hour and our Best of Podcast on demand in the ESPN app. And subscribe to the Le Batard and Friends Podcast Network featuring South Beach Sessions, Stupidity, and Mystery Creep. Please rate and subscribe. New episodes are posted every week wherever you get your podcasts.
So one of our favorites around here, Stugotz, Rob Gronkowski, has evidently he's getting close, according to a variety of reports, to signing with the WWE. He's finalizing a deal. This is a report by FS1's WWE Backstage. We don't know how he's going to be used, but he could appear on Friday Night SmackDown on Fox on March 20th. Before we get to all our Gronk-related items, though, a tweeter writes in, and you can always write the show at Le Batard Show with whatever your criticisms or complaints are. This person writes in, why is the Dan Le Batard Show shown on ESPN? It should be shown on Comedy Central or not at all.
He's that guy.
So you don't want laughter with your sports? Like you think
Nope.
you think we're okay on Comedy Central like that? You'd allow it there, but when it comes to sports, you want to talk about whether Giannis or LeBron is the MVP, but you don't want anyone laughing. That's a strange criticism, right? Like I actually understand the original incarnation of Highly Questionable, Stugotz, when it was on ESPN2. One of the mistakes that we made was not realizing that the show would have been better suited for Comedy Central than ESPN2, because ESPN2, if you're finding ESPN2 on your dial, you
love
really
sports.
care about sports. If you're finding us on ESPN Ooze, you really care about sports. But that mindset is just generally confusing to me. The idea that sports should be serious. The idea that sports shouldn't have there's a comedy section for laughter, and then there's this section of sports where it's the library. It's a weird way to look to compartmentalize things.
Well, I mean, people take their sports very seriously, as you just pointed out, if you are going to ESPN News, because I understand what that person is doing. You'll flip around. For me, it's 206, 207, 208, 209 to find sports. And if one of those networks, ESPN, has a game on or something going on, and you just want highlights and what happened last night, what's going on today, you'll go and search ESPN News, ESPNU. You're just looking for SportsCenter, essentially. And then you stumble upon us. And if you're a serious sports fan looking for sports, you get us. I kind of understand that reaction. But laughter with sports, that's interesting, because when you're sitting around watching games with your friends, aren't you laughing? Like,
but you're also serious. You're happy. You're sad.
But it can be both, right? Like all of those emotions.
Not to this guy. To this person, it cannot be both. Banish us, quarantine us on Comedy Central, or not at all.
And also, we're not telling you to laugh. We're just asking you if you'd like to.
That's exactly right. Thank you, Mike. So speaking of that, Gronk becoming a wrestler allows us a lot of avenues to mock, because he's not a great actor. He can be funny, but he's funny as an oaf.
He's not going to be a great wrestler. You think he is? I don't think he's going to be good on the mic. I don't know how great he's going to be at his wrestling moves. He's a great singer. We know that. He's the White Tiger. But I don't know how good he's going to be as a is he going to be a heel? He'd be a good guy, you'd think, right?
It's a great question. I'd like to talk about this a little more. Before I do that, though, I was given some very bad news during the break. I was told that much of our Gronk church stuff has been purged in an audio slaughter. We lost.
What?
I mean, yes, we spent a better part of 6 months creating an entire church all around Gronk and his meathead personality.
So the audio should be good. The audio is there. Now, some time ago, things vanished in terms of documentation. Teddy Bridgewater vanished in terms of documentation. Our calendar at one point just disappeared. It's like our files are working against us here. I don't know exactly what's going on. So we've been piecing things together, but like the master list just disappeared around the time Anthony got here.
So what do we have here? What do we have in terms of things that are left in the Gronk file?
Dan, you'll be happy to know we still have you reading Gronk's prayer.
Our Gronk, who scores in sevens, hallowed be thy brain. Thy kingdom dumb, thy will mix rum on turf as it is in heaven. Feed us this day our daily meat spread, and don't forgive us our trespasses as we don't forgive those who double cover against us. Lead us directly and repeatedly into temptation, but deliver that sexy body from evil. For spikes in the end zone with great power bring you glory forever. Waymen.
Wayman.
Wayman.
Now, if you want some more audio of Gronk, ironically enough, not purged, the Gronk family feud segment.
No, thank you. We can go without that. Do we have any other Gronk stuff?
That Tony would leave them.
I don't think you know what ironically means, like Alanis Morris said. It's a couple of times you've used ironic when it's not what we're referencing.
Like rain on a wedding day.
Those sexy bodies.
So that's two things. Do we have more than two?
Sorry for party rocking.
Is that it? We have
Turn down for what? For what?
Do we have anything outside that?
Ha 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 hallelujah. Ha 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 hallelujah.
That's it?
Yeah, that's it.
So everything else, we've lost.
Well, no, the
everything.
Family Feud, too.
That's still in the back pocket.
The file was so much larger, man.
What happened? We had a whole. The church burned down. The church of Gronk is burned down. We've only got like 2 or 3 items left. We had an entire. There's a stained glass window we have of Brian Bosworth as a patron saint. I've seen it.
I think we gave that to someone.
No, what do you mean
What?
we gave it to someone?
That's also been purged?
What do you
I
mean?
think that was sent to someone in the mail.
What?
What? Who requested that, and why would we give it to
that
them?
away? That has a street value.
So ironic.
It is ironic.
We have ridden Stugotz incompetence to world domination.
We are worshipers at this particular church.
Everybody please bow your head and hold hands. Our Gronk, who scores in sevens, hallowed be thy brain, thy kingdom dumb, thy will makes rum.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Mick Foley going to join us, expected to join us in just a second here on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Here's your SportsCenter update. The Cavs and coach J.B. Bickerstaff have agreed to a 4-year deal that will run through the 23-24 season. The Manchester City-Arsenal match has been postponed as members of the Arsenal club made close contact with Olympiacos. This is a tough story, man. And Nottingham Forest owner Evangelos Marakanis, who tested positive for the coronavirus. It's the Premier League's tilt, that the first Premier League tilt that has been postponed due to the epidemic.
Do you feel any shame when like a Mick Foley is on the line listening to you read this before joining our radio show?
Nope. I didn't ask for any of these stories. I didn't ask for any of this. I mean, it's hockey. It's littered with hockey and soccer and names I can't pronounce. And I hope this person, gets better. But I don't know how to pronounce his name. I could say Evangelos.
Let's get to Mick Foley, shall we?
Mick Foley, that's an easy name. And finally, on average, a 4-year-old child asks 437 questions a day. Wow. Wendy's has breakfast now. We're talking fresh cracked eggs on every breakfast sandwich. Yep, it's going to be America's favorite breakfast. Download the Wendy's app for deals on your new favorite breakfast. You up for this? No shame. See you at Wendy's in the morning. Available at participating U.S. Wendy's. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in to SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day. Shame.
Guillermo, put it on the poll at LeBatard Show. 4-year-old asking questions per day, 437 questions. You go over or you go under there. Mick Foley, if you want to follow the things Mick Foley is doing these days, tickets, tour dates, you visit realmickfoley.com. We appreciate him taking the time to join us here. I have read, Mick, that you're most proud of your IWA King of the Death match versus one of the Funk brothers, Terry Funk. people from my childhood, the notorious Funk Brothers. Can you tell us why you're proudest of that match? And thanks again for joining us.
Yeah, that's become one of my favorite stories to tell on tour. I'm proudest of it because Terry and I realized it was the final show of my first tour for IWA Japan. And whoever booked the buildings had reasoned that since we were wrestling in the southern part of Japan in January, they wouldn't have to pay to heat the gymnasiums. And so they're just like still cold everywhere in Japan for you geography people out there. And so I was like hovering with Tracy Smothers, a big kid from Winnipeg named Rick Patterson, just the three of us in one dressing room, hovered over a kerosene heater. And this is like the old school way where you not only don't talk to your opponent before a match, in some cases. In this case, I didn't even see Terry because he was on the other side of the building, but we both knew without knowing that, all right, there's only 150 people, each one of them wearing a winter coat. But the Japanese media was there, and within 3 days, this is 1991, they would have like 500,000 people would see these photos in brilliant living color, and we both felt like this was the match upon which we're going to build the foundation for this little promotion. We're going to put this thing on the map. And the lengths we went to, doing things that probably would have gotten us arrested in most countries around the world. Yeah, it was my first ever no rope barbed wire singles match. Ropes go down, barbed wire goes up, and what I say at the show is like, if you're wondering, like real tomato ketchup.
There's a second.
You're first. You've done multiple just barbed wire.
I became a master of it. Yeah, turned it into an art form.
All right, so you got tacks all over the place. You've got C4 explosives too, right?
Not that night. That was January in front of 150. And then what culminated in August of 95 at what was known at the time as the Kawasaki Dream Tournament has gone down in wrestling lore as the King of the Death Match. And to this day, that's my name in Japan, Cactus Jacko, King of Death Match.
How much did you get paid for that?
$400.
Didn't you almost lose your ear?
Yeah, I almost lost my good one. And so I was talking about that match actually somebody asked me about the Kawasaki Dream. And I'm like, the crazy thing is, like, they're playing my music, and then Mr. Asano, he was the owner, he was worth between $50 and $100 million, depending on where the Japanese stock market was. And I hear him yelling at me, he's like, Cactus-san. And I'm like, hold on, I'm selling photos. So, here's the biggest, it's a big tournament, left me much the worse for wear. And I'm trying to, any other sport in the business, like, could you imagine Tyson Fury's music playing? Hold on, he's selling some autographs at the table. But that's how you did it. Like, there's a photo in that match, that first match of that tournament, where you can actually see I think a 100 yen bill sticking out of my boot.
So your show and tickets and tour dates, you want to visit realmickfoley.com. It's a combination of stand-up comedy and storytelling, or
I'll just say every good stand-up comic will, if they look at the show, they go, well, of course this is storytelling is stand-up comedy, is part of the stand-up comedy family. But I don't want to scare away prospective fans by thinking, I'd be like, hey, what's with this coronavirus? I don't do topical stuff. I don't do politics. I don't talk social issues. I tell these wrestling stories and I work on them. I really work on them. Like last night, I felt like I was a little bit off, and I go back to the drawing board and I go, okay, how can I make that story better? What syllable can I emphasize more? I'm a perfectionist, and my goal is not the number of laughs. It's just I want people to have big smiles on their faces when they leave the event.
At the risk of turning you into a piano bar here, do you mind telling us one of your favorites? Not all of them, obviously. If you want all of them, tickets, tour dates, realmickfoley.com. But what is one of the stories we might enjoy?
I'm in the South now. I'm in Tennessee. Last night I was in Roanoke, Virginia, which is a big WCW town. So I was breaking out a story in which I'm just going to give you a touch of it. I certainly can't go into the meat of the story here, but I was talking about how there was a frustration being in WCW because they'd worked themselves into a situation where you couldn't be a top guy unless you were making top guy money, but you couldn't make top guy money unless you were a top guy. So they kind of married themselves to the same like 8 top guys. So for people like me and a young, stunning Steve Austin, that can be kind of frustrating. And so also loneliness of being away from the home. And so you do little things to pass the time, like taking bets on how long it would take to psychologically torment and crack another human being. In this case, Diamond Dallas Page, one of the greatest guys in the world. And I was like, Steve, how long it's going to take? He's like, hell, I think we can crack this SLB in 3 days. I'm like, Steve, I think we could do it in 1. And I say, like, you learn, like, everyone's got idiosyncrasies when they travel, And Dallas would thumbtack the blinds to the wall so as not to let in even the faintest peep of light, man-made or sunlight. And that's not a problem. It's an idiosyncrasy. The problem was he was one of those random guys who liked to be naked in the motel room. And to make it even more surreal, he wasn't just naked. He would wear saran wrap around his knees, which he claimed helped lubricate the joints. And Steve and I sat down to Dallas next to him and just tried to have a heart-to-heart. And I go, Dallas, Steve and I would both feel more comfortable if you'd wear clothes in the room. And he looked at me like it was the most absurd request ever asked. And he simply said, but, bro, they get in the way. Like, to this day, I have no idea what that means. They get in the way. I remember how Travis felt in the old Yeller movie. I was more or less like, Steve, we got to get a metaphorical bullet, put it in this guy's head. And so we tormented him, and that part you have to come to the show for.
Mick Foley with us here on ESPN Radio. For tickets and tour dates, visit realmickfoley.com. Your IMDb says you're currently filming a movie called Elevator Man. Mick, please tell me you are Elevator Man.
Are you Elevator Man?
I am.
Yes!
We filmed that one actually a while ago. I don't know what's taking so long to get it out. I think it's going to be fun, but I'll tell you what, I had a chance to be part of a really great movie called The Peanut Butter Falcon. And I was just disappointed that Zach Gotzing, a young man with Down syndrome who stars in the movie, wasn't nominated for a couple of big awards, because he will steal your heart in this movie. And Jake Roberts is tremendous as the backyard wrestler who would rather keep a firm grasp on that title than make the dreams of a young man with Down syndrome come true. And it got like 96% Rotten Tomatoes. And,
it's supposed to be great. Is Shia LaBeouf sane?
Yeah. Is he what?
Is he sane? Because
you know what? Yeah, I'll tell you what. When I got to Savannah, it was like 2 days after he had the blow up, the weekend blow up, that was all over the news. But when that young man was on set, he not only worked hard, but he was respectful. He would talk to all the extras like he was great with Zach. That relationship they had, you can't act that. That's got to be real. And it was like it felt like a real family thing. So yeah, he's saying he and I had a couple of heart-to-heart talks, life talks. And I understand he has a problem. When he drinks, he does it to excess. He doesn't drink all the time. It's not like a classic alcohol problem. But when he does choose to drink, he can't stop. And then some stupid things end up happening. But he was a hard-working dude, man, and he's good in that movie. He's really good.
Hopefully this this nomination snub can be corrected by your role in Elevator Man.
Best actor.
Mick, again, tickets and tour dates, visit realmickfoley.com. I've got 1,000 more questions. Mick, talk to you tomorrow. Can we talk to you tomorrow,
Please
Mick?
say yes.
Just every day, just touch in here.
Yeah, no,
if I can get a plug, do you mind if I tell people, like, the tours go in Tennessee to Kentucky, to Texas, to Oklahoma, Arkansas, Kansas, Iowa, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan. I think we're hitting 15 states,
nice.
35 cities in 15 states. And so I hope people will take a chance.
That's how tours work, Mick.
Yeah, typically.
You want to promote it again tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow. We'll talk to you about it more tomorrow, okay, Mick?
You got it, man.
All right, cool.
I'm going to be your third man in the booth.
All right.
Yes.
Let's go.
Elevator
My private jet isn't going to fuel itself.
Support the people who support us, Advance Auto Parts.
You may not be able to run, throw, or catch like a professional athlete, but now that it's spring, you can get your lawn looking like a professional sports field, assuming your lawn gear will start, that is. Stop by Advance Auto Parts. They'll test your lawn and garden battery for free. If it needs to be replaced, they have Autocraft lawn and garden battery starting at just $22.99. Plus, enter the code DAN20 when you buy online to save 20%. Think ahead. Think Advance. Only at Advance Auto Parts.
We have run out of space for all of our awards.
Today on ESPN Daily, the Dodgers need a championship. After the heartbreak of near misses, they are determined to overcome the past. And with Mookie Betts in place, can they finally bring it home? That's ESPN Daily, presented by ADT. Download, subscribe, and review ESPN Daily, available wherever you enjoy your podcast.
Mick Foley will be on with us again. He's got a scheduling conflict tomorrow, but he will be on again with us because we've got more stories than that. We'll get to the polls in a second at LeBatard Show, but Mike Ryan is making an allegation here that Apple purposely makes its old phones crap out so that you have to buy new phones. It would be a fairly Stugotz business model.
Well, it's not an allegation, Dan. It was in the end. Finally, they had to pay out for a lawsuit, to which I say, totally worth it for Apple.
The end finally now makes the story credible.
Yeah. What was the payout? Like half a $500 million, considering how many phones they sell and how much they have to pay out individually. It comes out to like $20 per person. They got you. Effective business plan, making sure, because I've been there. I've been suspicious a couple of times with older models of phones where I'm like, man, it's funny that my phone's starting to act up the second a new iPhone comes out. All our fears are realized. They were doing it on purpose, and bravo, you got me. Well worth it.
Yes.
What's $500 million to Apple?
That's right.
That is a hell of a plan by them.
Is that even a day for them?
This is the punishment? This is the punishment for that?
Is that even a day for them? I'm wondering what
You're wondering what Apple makes a day?
What Apple makes a day because that's probably high.
An apple a day probably makes more than a bill a day.
No.
Yeah.
Apple makes $163 million a day.
Is that in profit? Just in profit alone.
Like, 1 million every 8.8 minutes.
Man, geez, that is crazy. That's a lot. That's not. If that's,
they're doing well.
What's their revenue?
This Apple going well for Apple. This Apple, yeah,
they might be on to something.
They got a future at LeBatard Show. If you want to vote on the polls, what do you have here, Stugotz?
Are you judging the coffers, and are the coffers judging you? I feel like that's going on everywhere, man.
Yeah.
Right.
I also feel the urge to not rub my face on television. I still touch my face. It's impossible not to. But right now, I have a huge itch on my nose, and the camera's on me, and I can't do it until I duck to the shadows.
I've done it a million times today. I got mad at someone for coughing while I was coughing. I did that yesterday at Starbucks.
Another lie.
That one's the truth. Everything else I said today, lie. All of it. I can't believe I got aloe. I mean,
thought it was
so good. It was so good. We can't make up the stuff that happens around here. So, in order to cover up a lie, Stugotz stole. And instead of stealing hand sanitizer, he accidentally stole aloe. That's a thing that happened with no rehearsal around here today.
I honestly still don't know what's the truth and what's a lie and like what's just for show.
That hair dryer was Lucio's.
No, yeah, that obviously was fake in the hairspray.
Come on. Do you know the difference between a CVS and a Walgreens once you're inside? It's a great question. 69% of the audience said no.
Nice percentage. It's Walgreens with an S.
What did I say?
Walgreen.
Without an S.
Really? I don't think I said
Sign
that.
of aging.
Play it back. Would you like the ability to unsend text messages? 92.4% of the audience said yes. I don't get that, though. You send it. Do they see it? How long do you have to hit the unsend? All of it is problematic.
I think the problem here is that you're an old man and you're not sending many 2 a.m. regrettable texts.
You're right. Would you eat toast that has been sitting in your backpack for 5 hours? Billy did. 66% of the audience said no. Sorry, Bill. PB&J with toast. 60% of the audience said yes. Boom.
Victory for Stugotz.
Person who uses Brecky and Sammy when talking about breakfast and sandwiches. Jerk or jackass? 87% of the audience said jackass.
They always go with a harsher option.
They're cruel.
They're very mean.
The poll,
and they also seem to be tattooing themselves at an alarming rate.
And they're right.
Over under 437 questions a day by a 4-year-old. 77% of the audience said over. Those are the polls.
Someone got a mystery crate tattoo, right? A mystery crate tattoo.
Dude, that's niche.
Let me explain that. Of course, dude. But, sir, you're going to regret that so much in 50 years.
Or Friday.
You just heard the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
All right, bye.